All right, it's 11:02. I think we can get started. Hi, my name is Robert Horan, and I'm going to be your presenter along with Ben King from Atlassian. And we're going to talk to you about how we can help transform your journey to the Atlassian Cloud. So, first I'm going to tell you a little bit about AdTech. We'll talk about what a cloud migration is. I'll tell you a bit about the benefits of the Atlassian Cloud. Ben will tell you about the Atlassian Cloud roadmap and about how you can get more return on your investment and lower your total cost of ownership with the Atlassian Cloud. We'll then talk about migration strategies and planning for a cloud migration. I'll give you some takeaways, and then we can go into Q&A. First, let me tell you about AdTech. AdTech is a global organization that combines efficiency and technical expertise to provide innovative results within the software development lifecycle. Now, we've been delivering software services and DevOps expertise for our customers for over 15 years, and we've grown to over 200 employees with a global footprint. Our headquarters is located in Princeton, New Jersey, and we have additional offices in Los Angeles, India, and Singapore. Now, we're DevOps experts specializing in build and release management, continuous integration and deployment, workflow configuration and management, custom development, consulting, training, and more. We're the creators of Code Factory, which is a fully managed, hosted, and customizable software environment, enabling your dev teams to work the way they need to. It provides higher uptime, no upgrade costs, unlimited space, and frequent recurring backups. We collaborate with customers of all sizes to build custom solutions tailored to meet their specific needs. And as we're going to discuss in detail today, AdTech is here to help with your data migrations as well, whether you're moving to the cloud, a data center, or even a hybrid environment. We have the knowledge and expertise to help plan and execute your migration from start to finish. Now, cloud migrations can be difficult, highly complex, and time-consuming, often requiring the expert advice and support of a qualified solution partner. And that's where we come in. At AdTech, we know everything there is to know about cloud migration. We'll be with you at every step of the way, providing the knowledge, experience, and resources you need for a successful implementation. As an Atlassian Platinum solution partner, we have deep expertise in the Atlassian Cloud and their cloud-based tools and applications. But not only that, we don't just support Atlassian solutions, we develop and publish apps and custom solutions ourselves. That means we can recommend the best apps for your business. And if you need a specific application integration solution that's not currently available in the marketplace, we'll develop one for you. We will work with you to assess your current environment, develop a migration plan, implement the migration, and resolve any issues that arise. We can fill in the gaps in your support system with assistance before, during, and after your migration. Now, as I mentioned before, we've developed several products, which include Excellent Table, which is a fully featured dynamic and collaborative spreadsheet built for Confluence. Code Factory, which again is a complete solution for software development teams, providing managed cloud hosting for all of your dev tools. And Unstoppable, which is our 508 compliance solution, providing your DevOps tools with enhanced compliance and usability options for visually impaired users. So let's start off by talking about what an Atlassian cloud migration is. And so to do so, I'd like to give you a little more context and give you some background information on the Atlassian Cloud and what makes it the best deployment option for your tools. So Atlassian launched their cloud offering nearly a decade ago with the mission of delivering the best possible cloud experience for organizations of all sizes globally. And they worked tirelessly to improve their offerings, introducing a revised platform in 2017. And since then, the Atlassian Cloud has come a very long way. They've added multiple products like Atlassian Access for user management, Insight for asset management, and they've integrated OpsGenie into Jira Service Management for world-class ITSM support. They've added premium plans for many of their cloud products, which offer advanced features and support. And last year, they unveiled Cloud Enterprise, specifically tailored to meet the needs of their largest customers, and offering such features as global scale and performance in the cloud, centralized admin controls, and enterprise-grade security. Now, in the fall of 2020, Atlassian announced that they had chosen to simplify their on-prem offerings. They were doing so because they believed that the cloud is the future, and that they and their customers will be much more successful in the long run with their cloud offering. And in fact, 90% of new Atlassian customers today start in the cloud, and cloud migrations are happening faster than ever. Thousands of your server customers have already moved over, and in just the last year, the server to cloud migration rate has increased by almost 50%. Now, looking at the server timeline, Atlassian announced their plan to discontinue support for server products nearly 1 year ago, nearly 1 year to the date, in fact, on October 16th of 2020. Sales of new licenses for server products were discontinued as of this past February, and with a complete discontinuation of support coming in February 2024. Starting next February, Atlassian will only provide bug fixes and security updates for critical vulnerabilities until the end of support in 2024. And so for many, this news has led customers to think about cloud migration as a short-term, medium-term goal. But really, what is an Atlassian cloud migration? Well, in short, an Atlassian cloud migration is the process of moving your Atlassian applications and the associated data from a self-hosted environment, generally server, to the Atlassian cloud infrastructure. Sounds simple, right? Just move it from here to there. Well, it's a bit more complicated than you might think. To ensure your migration is successful, you're going to need to assess your current environment, create a migration plan, and thoroughly test before performing a production migration. Now, the complexity of your migration and the effort required is really going to vary depending on your requirements and other factors, including the volume of the data that you're looking to migrate, what your current user management solution is, your apps, and your customizations, just to mention a few of the factors. And we're going to go over these points today. But first, I want to tell you a bit about the benefits of the cloud. Now, the Atlassian Cloud offers a host of benefits, including increased agility, managed updates, and robust security, all with no hosting or maintenance overhead. Automatic updates ensure that the Atlassian Cloud is always up to date, meaning that you get immediate access to the latest features, security updates, and more, all without the need for planning, effort, or downtime. Atlassian will manage all aspects of hosting and deployment, which frees you from the monumental responsibilities of maintaining servers, buying and renewing software licenses, data storage, real estate, and more. It's been built for scale and ensures the same level of service is provided to organizations of all sizes. So with the Atlassian Cloud, you get to choose how you spend your time, and you get to focus on the core goals of your organizations rather than maintenance. And with that, I'd like to take us to our first poll question. Why are you considering a migration to the cloud? We'd like to know, are you looking to reduce costs, eliminate maintenance, maybe improve performance, boost security, or get immediate access to the latest features? Give a couple more seconds for you to respond. Okay, great. So the biggest, what you've said is the biggest reason you might want to do this is to eliminate maintenance, but reducing costs and improving performance, round out the top three, then followed by boosting security and immediate access to latest features. Really though, this seems to be a nice even spread, with the exception of eliminating maintenance, which is a fantastic reason for moving forward. Now, when customers were asked about this, according to a recent survey, the biggest factor for many Atlassian customers was cost. Other top reasons for moving to the cloud included, again, eliminating upgrades and manual maintenance, improving performance, and supporting remote work, which was really an incredible factor last year that became so pressing because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And so, do the benefits of the cloud deliver on the customer expectations? Well, the data says yes. Atlassian recently asked customers who'd made the switch from server to cloud to provide some information about their experiences. And the most cited benefit of moving to the cloud was freeing the responsibility for security upgrades and maintenance from their IT teams, improving performance, user satisfaction, and lower total cost of ownership really ranked among the other top benefits that customers noted. So now I'm going to hand this over to Ben King from Atlassian, and he's going to talk to you about the Atlassian Cloud roadmap and upcoming features, and also the returns on investment that you'll receive when you move to the Atlassian Cloud. Ben?
Thanks, Robert, and thanks, AdTech, for having me today. So as Robert mentioned, I'm a solution engineer at Atlassian, and I spend my days working with Atlassian's largest customers who are interested in moving from their on-premise deployments into the cloud. So real quick today, I'm going to talk to you about a few things, starting with the Atlassian Cloud roadmap. So as Robert alluded to earlier, the Atlassian Cloud is built upon a completely different platform than our on-prem products, which means if you're using an on-prem product today, the experience that you're going to have in cloud is quite different. The features are different, the roadmap is different, and we argue that it's a much better experience and it's the best experience that you can possibly have. But what that means is that you need to be aware of what is coming and what is already available in the Atlassian Cloud to be able to compare it to the experience you're having today. That's where the cloud roadmap comes into play. Available on our website is our complete cloud roadmap, which includes the features that are in the works, coming in the future, as well as features that have already been shipped. This will help you fully understand the scope of the endeavor that you're about to embark upon if you are migrating from on-prem to cloud. So moving on, I'll talk a little bit about the Atlassian Cloud ROI. And in order to understand ROI, you kind of have to start with total cost of ownership. So if you think about comparing the total cost of ownership of server or data center to cloud, you might be tempted to think of things just in terms of the license cost, right? And if you do that, the Atlassian Cloud might look more expensive, right? The Atlassian Cloud subscription cost typically is more than a server or data center subscription cost. But when you start peeling back the layers of the onion, you'll realize that there are quite a bit of operational costs that you may be incurring today, things like hardware or people's time, most importantly, downtime for upgrades, things like that, that are having you incur quite a bit of cost with your on-prem deployments. Now, if you were to move to cloud, a lot, if not all, of those operational costs are shifted upon to Atlassian. This actually results in a lower total cost of ownership than what you might be experiencing today, if you think of things holistically. And one great customer example that we have comes from a customer at Visco named Sky Frostenson, who said, ease of maintenance was the primary reason we migrated. We're a lean organization and we want to stay focused on delivering value to our 2 million members. It's hard to justify the time spent on internal tool upgrades when they don't directly contribute to our mission. And that's super important. We want customers to stay dedicated to what their company does, right? And we can stay dedicated to what our company does, which is managing Atlassian products. So to put this into the context of your company, we've created a tool available on our website called the Cloud Savings Calculator, which allows you to input your products and your number of users and receive a result that will show you what you might expect in terms of savings. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see a quick example with 250 users on a few different products. And you can see that just as like a quick high-level estimate, this particular example could save quite a bit of money just in 1 year. But don't take our word for it. Forrester did a study of 4 Atlassian Cloud migrators and analyzed the business impact of that migration for those 4 customers and wrote a whole report on it. We will be sending out this report in the follow-up email for this webinar, and I highly encourage you to go read it to understand how you might receive similar results if you were to embark on a cloud migration. With that, I'll kick it back over to Robert.
All right, thanks so much, Ben. Now we're ready for our next poll question. When do you plan to migrate to the Atlassian Cloud? And so for this, we'd like to know if you're going to migrate within the next few months, maybe between 6 months to a year, within the next 2 years, possibly as close as possible to the end of server support, or maybe you don't have any plans to migrate at all. If that's the case, we'd like you to please expand on this choice in the chat so that we have a little bit more of an understanding of why you might not be choosing to migrate to the cloud. And we'll give everybody a minute to answer this question. Okay, it looks like most people are choosing to migrate within the very near future, either within the next few months or between 6 years. I mean, excuse me, not 6 years, 6 months to a year from now. Sorry about that. Some are choosing to wait it out as long as possible, up until February. And I do see a couple of respondents have chosen not to migrate to the cloud. I don't see anything in the chat about why. I do see a comment. What about scrims too? I'm not sure what that means, but if you'd like, please ask that question in the Q&A and we'll try to answer that. So let's talk about planning your cloud migration. And planning is really the most important aspect of a successful migration, as it is in any project. And you really should never assume simplicity, because even what seems like a small migration may be highly complex depending on what you're migrating. And so when you plan, you should define your requirements, determine a strategy, and most importantly, make an assessment of your current configuration so that you know exactly what will be migrated and how it's going to be done. Now, a successful migration to the Atlassian Cloud really hinges on thorough preparation and planning, outlining the steps which need to be followed and who's going to be following them and when. To develop that plan, there are really some key points that need to be considered and decisions to be made. And these can be very challenging and time-consuming tasks. And it's recommended that you work with an experienced Atlassian partner like AdTech who would work closely with you to ensure that your migration is smooth and worry-free. But the first thing you're going to want to do is define your criteria for success. Migrating to the cloud may be the ultimate goal, but it's a journey. And there are decisions to make and steps to plan. And these questions are a great starting point for you to start gathering your requirements. You'll really need to consider the differences in server and cloud applications because, as Ben mentioned, they are very different. While the core functionality is similar, there are differences in UI, app functionality, app support, and other factors to be considered. And you really should have a full understanding of what these differences are so that you'll know what to expect from your new environment once you get there. But most importantly, you want to know, you should know why you're migrating. What are you looking to get out of this? Are you looking to reduce costs, get access to immediate updates, boost your security, or eliminate administrative overhead? These are the factors you'll need to consider, and these are going to inform your migration strategy overall. What are the apps that are critical to your organization? Do the cloud equivalents exist? Are you able to migrate your app data? What will you have to do? Will you have to speak to the vendors directly? You'll need to consider your time frame and factor all of this into it. And the scope of the migration, including the overall volume, what you want to migrate, what you might want to leave behind. Are you going to consolidate multiple instances into one cloud site, for example? Doing so would definitely increase the complexity and the time frame for your migration. You also need to think about your core team. Who's going to perform the migration? Who's going to be doing testing? Are you going to maintain your current server environment in some capacity? So answering these questions in combination with a thorough assessment of your environment is really going to help you determine the right course of action. And finding the time and resources to get these answers definitely can be a monumental undertaking and something that you should set time aside for. But again, this is one of the biggest benefits that collaboration with AdTech would provide, because a migration expert would meet with you to understand your requirements, understand your pain points, assess and inventory your environment, determine a strategy, including a user migration strategy, and develop a cloud migration plan that meets your needs. Now, I mentioned a migration strategy. Determining a strategy ahead of time is really critical to success, and it will give your teams and your stakeholders a very clear understanding of what they should expect to see when they access their new cloud site. And there are 4 migration strategies that you can choose from. The first is lift and shift, which is the simplest. It takes all of your data and migrates it to the cloud in a single operation. Again, it's the simplest approach, and it's good for teams that are looking to completely decommission their on-prem tools. It is important to bear in mind that the more data that you have to migrate, the longer it's going to take and the greater the complexity. The second option is the optimize and shift method. And here you'd migrate a subset of data to the cloud, leaving unnecessary data behind. Now, this is the strategy that most teams use because it allows them to start fresh in the cloud with only the data that they need. The third option is a phased migration. And as it sounds, you would migrate data in stages rather than all at once. And as you complete each phase, you can identify and resolve migration issues, and users can be onboarded and trained in groups. And the last is to start fresh. Really, this means migrate nothing and start fresh in a brand new cloud site. Now, this approach may be great if you're sure that you won't need any of your data, or if you'd like to start working in the cloud immediately and maybe migrate some data at a later date. Now, it's technically not a migration strategy because you can use this approach to just start fresh, but it also can be used to assess the cloud environment, see how your teams work, optimize its configuration, and develop a rollout plan before migrating your data. And as you consider a strategy, try to remember that you will always have a perpetual license to your server software. And what this means is you can maintain a read-only version of your server instance as an archive. You won't need to pay for maintenance and upgrades moving forward, and you'll always have access to your data. So now I'd like to bring us to our third poll. We'd like to know which migration strategy you would consider using. Would you go with lift and shift, optimize and shift, a phased approach, or would you want to start fresh? Give it a couple more seconds. All right. As expected, the overwhelming choice is optimize and shift. 67% of respondents taking that choice. Lift and shift got a good response as well. And phased and start fresh, rounded out. But yes, optimize and shift is the option that most people would choose because it really gives you just a fresh and optimized starting point. Now, as you formulate your plan, you really should get familiar with the migration paths that you have available to you. And there are several paths that you can choose from, with no single path being best for everyone. The best approach that you'll take will depend on your requirements and your environment. And some of those factors will include the strategy that you've just chosen, your user migration, your user management, sorry, your apps, your integrations, and the customizations that you'll need to migrate. And so these diagrams, which have been provided by Atlassian, can help you choose the right path. Now, the simplest migration paths involve the use of the Atlassian Cloud migration assistance. Now, these apps, which were built and maintained by Atlassian, are free to install and use. And once you've installed them, you can use them to perform assessments, choose what you'd like to move to the cloud, and start migrating at your convenience. They allow you to monitor the progress from start to finish. And so currently the migration assistants are only available for Jira Software, Jira Work Management, and Confluence. Tools are in development for Bitbucket and Jira Service Management with an expected release of Q4 this year. Now you should note that if you're migrating advanced roadmaps or Jira Service Management, you're not going to be able to use the migration assistant to perform the migration. However, you still can use it to perform app assessments, which we're going to get to in a moment. And as I said, Atlassian is currently working very hard on this tool to allow support for both. Again, the ETA is, I believe, Q4, but if you want an up-to-date ETA, you can browse the Atlassian Cloud roadmap, as Ben mentioned earlier. So as I mentioned, and as you've all spoken, most teams use the optimize and shift strategy, which allows you to migrate only what you need to your new cloud site. And again, this is the best approach because let's say you were moving to a new house. Would you take everything you own with you? Or would you take advantage of the opportunity to declutter and start consolidating? It's the same thought process here. Your server instance may be fairly new, or it may be well over 10 years old. But in either case, you may have accumulated a number of things that are cluttering it up, like closed projects, duplicate fields, or any other redundant objects, or just any other clutter that's just not useful and it's adding to the administrative burden. So a migration is a perfect opportunity to perform some spring cleaning while also reducing the overall complexity and scope of your migration. I mean, the bottom line is the more data you have, the more complex and time consuming your migration is going to be, the more planning you're going to have to do, and the more testing you're going to have to do. Now, you can keep any data that you decide not to migrate in your on-prem instance for archive purposes. Since you're starting fresh in the cloud, you can create a new data governance and clutter prevention policy based on what you've learned through this assessment, and you'll always have access to any other data that you don't migrate in your archive. Now, I'd like to talk about the most important part of the assessment, apps and customizations. Again, assessing your third-party apps and customizations is a most important step because unlike your standard application data, apps and app data aren't automatically migrated when you move from server to cloud. And your customizations will very likely need to be manually recreated in the cloud environment, assuming that's even feasible. So while new apps are being added to the marketplace every day, you're going to find that there are some apps that exist for server and data center that don't yet exist in the cloud. And in some cases, for those that do, they may work a bit differently. All of your apps are going to need to be installed separately in your cloud instance. And in some cases, you're also going to need to migrate your app data separately as well. Now, in most cases, this will involve reviewing the documented processes for migration if they exist. And in most cases, they do exist. But if they don't, you're going to need to work with the vendor directly to migrate that data. The bottom line is every app that you need to migrate should be considered a separate migration project, which may be as complex and time consuming, if not more so than the primary tool migration. Now, doing this sort of assessment is extremely important, especially if you're using a tool like ScriptRunner. So as Ben mentioned, the framework for Atlassian's apps are different in the on-prem versions and the cloud versions. And for that reason, it's not possible to create an automatic migration path for ScriptRunner data. The general approach to migrating a script from server or data center to the cloud is really to analyze every script individually, find the equivalent features in the cloud, and then to rewrite the script, assuming that's possible. If you're using something like team calendars, you'll have to migrate each calendar individually and separately. And you'll have to make sure that you account for all of your calendars that need to be migrated. Now, these are just two very obvious examples. There are really going to be more and more depending on which apps that you have installed. And so one of the biggest reasons that Atlassian recommends working with a solution partner like AdTech is because the migration effort for apps and customizations and app data can get extremely complicated very quickly. And this is why even if you have a very small instance, depending on which apps you have, the complexity can just exponentially skyrocket. We've been there, we've done this. And as I mentioned before, we don't just support the Atlassian suite, we've developed and published apps and custom solutions ourselves. And so we have the knowledge and expertise to really ensure all of your apps and app data is migrated successfully and completely. Our DevOps engineers can evaluate your apps, your custom integrations, webhooks, scripts, workflows, custom fields, and we'll craft a migration plan that best suits your needs. And we're going to see it through to completion. And for any apps that have no cloud version, or for apps that don't work the way that you'd like them to, we'll find the best alternative for you. And if an alternative doesn't exist, we'll create one for you. Now, for Jira and Confluence, the best and easiest way to assess your apps is to use the Cloud Migration Assistant apps. And here you can see the app assessment screens for both Jira and Confluence. And they look very similar. Confluence gives you a couple of extra columns. But this tool provides an inventory of your apps that you can use to develop a migration strategy and share with others. And they'll help you evaluate cloud app availability, feature parity, and migration paths. So on both screens, each row corresponds to an app that you have installed. And for each app, you can assign a status once you've made a decision about whether or not the app is necessary, or if you're going to find an alternative. Now, this choice can be updated at any time if you change your mind. You can also see if a cloud version of your app exists and get more information about the differences between your self-hosted and cloud versions, assuming that's available. Now, there's a column named Can Be Migrated, and this will show you if there's a migration pathway that's been made available by the vendor, or if you'll need to contact the vendor directly for more information. On the Confluence side, you have a couple of extra columns. You can see how many pages that the macros associated with a given app have appeared on in the last 30 days, and how many views those macros have received. And this will give you a good idea about how popular that macro, really how popular that app is, how critical it is to your organization. And so when you're done, you can also enter notes that can be used for future reference and provide additional context. And you can export a CSV report of this assessment that can be shared with your stakeholders and migration team. Now, another highly complex part of the migration is your user migration. You'll need to determine a strategy because user migration is an area of that can be extremely complex. How are your users going to log in? Do you need single sign-in? Do you need multi-factor authentication? You'll need to understand that user management in the cloud is very different than on-prem. Because with an on-prem solution, there are many different ways that users can be managed. You might be using an internal directory or an external directory. You might be using Atlassian Crowd, sorry, LDAP or SAML with an identity provider. You might have an SSO plugin. In the Atlassian Cloud, there really is only one tool for user management, and that's Atlassian Access. Atlassian Access is a high-level user management and security platform that manages all of your company's Atlassian Cloud use. So if your organization needs single sign-on functionality in the cloud, you're going to need a separate subscription to Atlassian Access. Also, as part of your assessment, in addition to reviewing your login requirements and your security requirements, you really are going to need to create an inventory of your users, both active and inactive, and pay special attention to the email addresses associated with these users. Your on-prem products allowed for multiple users to be associated with a single email address. But in the cloud, every user is going to need to be associated with a unique email address. If you find that 2 or more users share the same email address for an account, you're going to need to rectify this per account prior to the migration. So once you've defined your goals, you've selected your migration strategy, assessed your inventory, and determined your migration path, you should create a run book that lays out all of the steps that you're going to need to take to execute your migration. And so this is going to include performing a test migration, conducting a thorough UAT cycle, addressing any issues that arise during UAT, and then the steps that you need to finally perform your production migration. You're going to need to assemble a migration team to manage, track, perform, and test. And you'll need to share this runbook with them so that everyone knows what's expected of them and when. So once you've done that and you're ready, you'll perform a test migration and you'll conduct a thorough UAT cycle. And when I'm emphasizing thorough, because your testers should be selected from every part of your organization that's going to use your cloud tools. And this will ensure that all of the day-to-day tasks and all of the critical functionality that they need can be performed and replicated in the cloud. So all the features that you depend on and all the functionality that you depend on is present and working as expected. And once the UAT is complete and you've addressed any and all issues that have arisen during test, you're going to then want to choose a date for your production migration. We recommend scheduling your migration at night, over a weekend, or some other time when your team is less likely to be active. Now, you should also factor in some extra time for troubleshooting, because you should always expect the unexpected. When scheduling, you don't want to go too far out from your UAT cycle either, because you don't want to give too many opportunities for new data or unexpected data to show up in your on-prem environment. Once you have your target date in mind, you're going to need to communicate your migration plan to everyone, your organization at large. And in this communication, you're going to want to tell people when the migration is going to occur, what sort of downtime to expect, what's going to happen to your old site after migrating. Will it still be available as an archive, or will it be writable as well? How will they access the new cloud site? What's the new URL going to be? How should users sign in? And who should people contact if they run into any issues or have troubles logging in? When the day arrives, you'll migrate to the cloud following all the steps in your runbook. And to help your team get adjusted, you'll want to set aside some time to prioritize any post-migration issues, gather feedback, or answer questions. Maybe add some time slots in for office hours in the first week after your migration. So that way you can get everyone to post all of their questions at once and give people a forum for feedback. Possibly create a Slack chat room where users can drop questions or provide feedback as well. Because again, although they're similar, Atlassian Cloud products aren't exactly the same as their server counterparts, and people might just have a learning curve that they have to get over. So you may want to consider training employees in the day-to-day use of the tools and how to administrate them. Now, there are many courses offered by Atlassian University, which can be conducted by an authorized Atlassian instructor from AdTech. These courses will offer a combination of lectures and hands-on labs that'll get your teams up to speed in no time flat. If that's not what you're looking for, or if you'd like a custom package, we can also build custom training packages based on your specific needs. Now, for our last poll, we'd like to know which of the following migration obstacles you might be facing. Maybe obstacle isn't the best word, but what are your concerns? Security and compliance, data residency, user management, third-party apps and customizations, or server application versions? Give it another moment. Okay. So security and compliance and third-party apps and customizations round up the top concerns, with data residency, user management, and server versions being less of a concern. But all of these are quite valid and quite pressing, and factors to be considered while you're creating your plan. Now, as I mentioned, cloud migration isn't as simple as just moving data or applications to the cloud. To be successful, you're really going to need to perform a thorough assessment of your existing workloads, processes, and involve your key stakeholders and explore all of your cloud options. You'll need to plan your strategy, review security, compliance, and support aspects, backup data, and even train users on new and improved features. This is a significant undertaking. And to guarantee success, you're really going to need to work with an experienced partner who's going to be with you every step of the way on your journey. And so, with over 15 years of experience providing custom solutions to a wide variety of customers, AdTech is here to be your cloud migration partner. And we've performed many migrations spanning organizations of all sizes, from small independent businesses to enterprise level organizations. We've successfully migrated over 500,000 Atlassian and DevOps users across on-prem and cloud environments. As your cloud migration partner, we'll work closely with you, your teams, to assess your current environment, recommend a migration strategy, build and execute a migration plan, and provide support to you once you've transitioned to the cloud. If you need a custom solution, we'll create one for you that meets your every need. Now, as an Atlassian Platinum partner, we have the industry knowledge and technical expertise to work with the full suite of Atlassian products and the vast library of applications that these products connect to. We provide a wide range of accredited Atlassian consulting, migration, and training services, along with integrations and customizations to orgs across all industries. And our advanced knowledge of Atlassian Cloud products, including product configuration expertise, customized solutions, and implementation services, enable us to power innovation for organizations looking to make the most out of the cloud. Also, though, our large pool of Atlassian SMEs build partnerships that are based on mutually beneficial relationships. By investing time, implementing the right resources, and focusing on communication, our Atlassian experts have what it takes to provide solutions that best fit the needs of your business, regardless of size or type. Again, we've been there, we've done this, and we would love the opportunity to help with your migration. And to get you started, AdTech will provide a free migration readiness assessment to determine your current setup in specialized situations. And this will include license and app assessment, migration steps, major blockers, and more. This assessment will help you determine which cloud service tier will work best for you: standard, premium, or enterprise. Which apps can be migrated, and which apps you may need to find alternatives for. And we'll look at security concerns, privacy concerns, and compliance, such as how you might be able to manage GDPR and other compliance concerns. We're here to answer any questions that you might have. Please just let us know how we can support you. I'd like to talk about, just summarize what we've talked about. As I mentioned, support for Atlassian server products ends on February 2nd, 2024. Sales of new licenses has stopped. And as of this coming February, Atlassian will only provide security and bug fixes for critical vulnerabilities until the end of the support. Now, when you move to cloud, you get the best of Atlassian, a platform that grows with you, integrates with all your tools, and gets smarter and faster every day. Migrating to the cloud offers a host of benefits, including increased agility, improved flexibility, robust security, and eliminates hosting and maintenance costs. Now, to do so, you're going to want to clearly define the success criteria for your migration. What are your short and long-term goals? What's your timeline? What's your budget? Which projects are you looking to migrate? Which apps are you looking to migrate? What are your security, legal, compliance, and privacy requirements? What are your marketplace app must-haves? And so to get there, you're going to need to perform a full inventory and assessment of your self-hosted solution. And this is really the most critical piece of the migration process. Your apps and your app data aren't going to be automatically migrated when you move from server to cloud, and customizations may need to be manually recreated in the cloud environment. Based on your assessment, you'll also need to determine your migration strategy and path. Do you want to move everything or just a subset of your data? Are you going to move it at once or in phases? Remember, you can always maintain a read-only instance of your self-hosted applications as an archive. You'll need to create a runbook, and you'll need to perform a thorough UAT cycle that touches on all of your required functionality before performing a production migration. And lastly, I want to again reiterate that AdTech is here to help you assess, plan, prep, test, migrate, and launch your new cloud site. After the migration, we'll be there when you need support. Now, if you still have questions, please contact us to schedule a free migration assessment, because one of our migration experts will work with you to assess your current configuration and recommend a course of action. And with that, I'd like to take some questions if you have any. So I see one question. Once the new future lease, can we migrate Jira software and Jira service management together in a single batch? I see, Ben, you're answering this question. Would you like to answer that?
Sure. So yes, you can move Jira software and Jira service management together, but you will need to use kind of an export import methodology rather than the migration assistance that we went over. And that's totally fine. A lot of people use an export import of the data. That this is exactly the type of procedure that AdTech can help with.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. I saw that you were typing an answer, so
Yeah.
that's why I just wanted to take the opportunity.
All good.
So what is the process of testing migration? Well, you'd want to select a cloud site. You need to register for a cloud site, and you would perform the migration. You would either use the cloud migration assistant, or you could use a method like a site import to perform your migration. It really depends on what your migration path is going to be. But once you've selected your migration path, you would perform an actual migration to that cloud site, and that cloud site would be used for testing. You would run through and test all of your required functionality and make sure that it meets your needs, and address any issues that come up during that testing phase. And then once you're done, you'll be able to either wipe that site and start fresh, or you can obtain a new cloud site that you can migrate to for your production environment.
I think Warren's question, Ben, was in context with the release of support for Jira Service Management using the Cloud Migration Assistant. So I think he's looking for an answer in that context. Once the support using the Cloud Migration Assistance is released for Jira Service Management, will the migration be possible in a single batch using the assistant?
And once support has been added to the migration assistant, you'll be able to select all of the projects, whether or not they're Jira software, Jira work management, or Jira service management, and you'll be able to migrate them together in a single batch.
To elaborate on that a little bit, the Jira Service Management Migration Assistant is currently being built. We are in a place right now where we can accept customers into an early access program for it. So it is near completion, but it is not yet generally available. We don't have an exact timeline for when it will be.
Now you can still use the site import method to migrate all of your Jira work management, Jira software, and Jira service management projects together as a single batch, if that is if you're open to that option as well. Now, are there any other questions? We'll give a few more minutes to accept more questions. Okay, just give another few moments if anyone has any questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So thank you everyone for attending today. Our contact information is shown here. Please reach out if you have any questions or if you'd like to schedule your migration readiness assessment. Thanks again for your time. Have a fantastic day. Thanks, Ben.